Happy Thursday, hockey fans. Welcome to another episode of Morning Cup of Hockey. Alongside Colby Cohen, I'm Johnny Lazarus, and we are presented by Betway. If you're going to place a bet on Betway. Please play responsibly, and remember, you must be 19 years of age or older. If you stayed up late and watched the Vancouver Canucks comeback, you got to feel pretty bad for Oilers fans right now because they must be going through it. Leon Draisaitl leaves the game in the second because of cramping issues. Comes back in the third, and then they absolutely collapse. We got to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Florida Panthers shellacking of the Boston Bruins, and then we'll get into tonight's games, and we will welcome on Anthony Barriola from Parasso to give a little beard tips and talk about his Boston Bruins. So a lot to get into on today's show. Before we do any of that, Kobe, let me ask you, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Well, first off, I'm a little disappointed that I fell asleep last night when the Oilers were comfortably sitting at 4-1. I just kind of dozed off, and I woke up and looked at my phone expecting to see like 6-2 and at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and that was not the case.
I'm surprised my text didn't wake you up.
Well, I had you on mute. I usually mute you before I go to bed. Otherwise, my phone will vibrate all night. But the Boston game was entertaining for a 6-1 game. It was certainly, not your typical 6-1 game where not a lot was happening. I mean, this was a game that, showed not necessarily a competitive game for part of it, but it kind of showed a little bit of playoff hatred, a little bit of the violence of the playoffs. These two teams have now played each other 2 years in a row in the playoffs. And although you've never really seen this be a rivalry, it certainly looks like this is a pretty heated series. Charlie McAvoy's bleeding at one point. Aaron Ekblad's getting involved in things last night after having a terrible game one. I think
Montour
the first
doing the licking at Marchand, that was fucking awesome.
That was a fuck you. And then I think first shift of the game, you either texted us this or I think you put this in our group text.
Yeah.
Tkachuk was right on top of the crease.
Well, that's what I said on the show yesterday. I said they got to rattle Swayman.
You did. And I don't think it rattled Swayman because I think Swayman, when he got pulled, I mean, it could have been 7-1 at that point. He had just made 2 or 3 big saves. And it's funny because right before that happened, Singsy tweeted something about what they should do with Swayman the rest of the game, and it was 3-1. And he said something along the lines of, I think they should get him out if they give up another quick goal. And I kind of quote tweeted and said, absolutely. If this gets to 4-1, get Swayman out of the net, let him sort of mentally refocus, give him the third period off, a little bit of extra rest. But then undoubtedly you go back to him to start the next game. I think that's a given. But the Bruins look like a completely different team in the second and the third period last night. They really did. They just started turning pucks over up the middle. McAvoy had a bad turnover. Then he lost his stick. Then he lost his man. It was a little bit, Mason Lohrei looked like a young kid last night, which we haven't seen a lot of. And then you got to give credit on the other side. Barkov sort of entered the series last night. Montour, Forsling had that big one-timer, that low to high.
That was a bomb.
You've heard me talk about this on the show before, about when I was coaching this year, talking to the kids about using that low to high one-timer. If you feel confident on a pass that's coming from the goal line all the way out to the point, if you're able to one-time that puck, it's very difficult for the defensive team to have an opportunity to line up to block that shot 2-3 layers like normal. So
that was something we did at practice every day at UMass. Get the puck from east to west, and then hit the D coming down the dots, low to high. It was like literally a signature play. It was the exact goal. If you remember the Mark Del Gaizo goal in overtime against Denver, Oliver Chow, gets the puck, goes right to Del Gaizo coming down the dots, one-time blast, overtime winner. So shout out to those guys.
We used to practice that low to high one-timer quite often at BU with David Quinn, and then even as I got into pro, David Quinn was my first coach in pro as well, in the American League, and same thing. And then everywhere else I went, we did a lot of that just because, again, it's effective. It's just not that many guys are able to pull this off because it's a difficult pass. And give Forsling credit there, as we show one of the highlights from Sportsnet last night on the Canadian broadcast. He moved in a couple of feet, which I think was smart because it wasn't a real heavy or hard pass. And a lot of times a slow pass, it's a little bit difficult to generate a ton of spin and a ton of velocity on a slow one-timer. I think there's sort of a sweet spot in how hard that pass needs to be, but it seemed like the Panthers woke up after the first period, after the line shuffling by Paul Maurice, and it was just all Panthers from there.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell literally right off the hop. Like I said, Matthew Tkachuk gets right on Swayman's crease. Doesn't necessarily rattle him, but just gets the team involved in the game right off the bat. And they get a power play from that too. I know they didn't score, but it just gets you going right away, right? Especially when your top guys are able to get a power play early on. And sometimes the power play, when you don't score on it, it can actually take away from your momentum, right? Like you can kind of lose confidence when your power play isn't scoring. And Boston comes out and scores that first goal. It could have gone the other way. And Charlie Coyle, is the beneficiary of a beautiful little, cost turnover by the Bruins. And they come down on a 3-on-1, essentially like a tight 3-on-1, from the high slot in, and they score a nice goal. And the energy wasn't necessarily sucked out of the building. So the Florida Panthers fans too, credit them. I didn't have the volume on the game. I was at a bar watching it, but you could tell the energy in the building, was still fine. And then the Panthers respond. Lawrence, wide open deflection right in front of the net. No one there around him. And Swayman, you can't blame him, even though, maybe his glove was down, but that's a perfect deflection to get the Panthers right back in the game. And then all of Florida's goals were pretty much playoff type goals, right? Like right around the net, top of the crease, in the goalie's face, dirty muck and grind kind of goals, and I think that's kind of what they needed to get themselves going here and to figure out a way to beat Jeremy Swayman, because for a lot of moments of these playoffs, it looks like Jeremy Swayman is unbeatable. So that's huge for them.
But he also has been able to see a lot. Toronto didn't do a great job of taking his view and making him uncomfortable. They just didn't. And Florida did last night. They made him very uncomfortable, and they made him look. He still looked like a good goaltender last night, but he didn't look like Patrick Waugh or Marty Brodeur like we've seen so far in the playoffs with the way that he's played.
We've been saving it. Let's just get right into it.
The Pastrnak.
Yeah, we've been saving it. Yeah, I want to get into it.
I mean, look, yeah. I love when two high-end goal-scoring star types of players do this kind of thing. Obviously Tkachuk is known for this a little bit more than others, but you see this video that we are showing you from the Rogers Sportsnet broadcast in Canada again last night. A little bit of chatter between the two at the ref circle. Then Pasta asks Monty if it's okay if he does it, which I thought,
because there's really no need for him to do it, right? Like that's why.
Well, listen, he's a superstar player, and if he breaks his hand, the Bruins are done. Mm-hmm. So I guess I understand it. Look, we can't pretend to know the relationship between Pasta and Monty. Clearly, there's a trustworthy one, and we're showing you the rest of the fight here. That we grabbed off of ESPN's right broadcast. And I think a lot of people were upset because Matthew Tkachuk kept swinging when Pasta went down. And then Pasta jumps in and starts throwing little rights and lefts while the refs have them. So you don't see that very often, especially amongst guys who are used to fighting a little bit more. I think Matthew Tkachuk doesn't really give a shit what the unwritten rules of the game are. That's probably what makes him so good. He really does not care. Because that is an unwritten rule. You don't punch a guy when they're down after a fight. The guy fought, he did his job, you did your job, and generally speaking, you leave it at that. So I didn't. But I love that Pasta
went back at him after.
Yeah, I didn't care for that, but I get it. It's playoffs. These teams are going to have to play each other. At least another couple of games, regardless. So. As much as I don't love it, I also don't mind it. I get it. I really do. And then I love how Paul Maurice was talking about in his post-game press conference about how he said, well, that was awesome. And, sorry if the violence offends you, to some of the writers, because some of the questions he was getting were very, you could just tell what they already had their stories written about how hockey's too violent and this and that. And, that's what these writers do. They have their stories are already written before the game's over. They're just trying to find some sort of narrative quote to fit into their little box. So all in all, 1-1 going back to Boston. I guess that's sort of, you're okay with that. Either team would be okay with that.
Well, I think also for Pasta, I think that fight too, like with it going back home, I don't know if he does that necessarily in game one, right? Like end of the game, team's out of it. The Bruins were trying to stir shit up the whole third period, right? Like I think Barkov scores the fourth goal, and then Coyle and Kachuk go at it. Even though Kachuk might have initiated that, Kachuk like went at Coyle a little bit and was chirping him, and then Montour gets one. Him and Marchand are going at it. Marchand puts him in a headlock. Like you could sense. I don't know if the Bruins were frustrated or if they were trying to just do whatever they can to fight back at Florida, because we know Florida, post whistles, Florida out of any team in the NHL, they fucking muck it up.
I heard a good line. I don't know who said it, whether it might have been in game. I think it was in the studio portion, and it might have even been Dave Jackson, the rules analyst, that said something along the lines of, you're beating me on the ice, so we're going to beat you in the alley. When you know you're losing a game like that, and you're going to see this team in 36 hours, I understand that tact. I mean,
people say like, what's the point of doing that? But it's just if you're not in the game on the scoreboard, it gets you in the game a little bit away from it, and then it just fires you up for the next one, right? Like,
well, I don't know. I'm not sure the Pasta thing like carries as much as people made it out to. Everyone was like, oh, like Pasta fought, like next game, his guys are going to be all jacked up. Like, I'm not sure if I agree with that.
Well, if you see Pasta doing that, you're not going to get fired up. Come on.
I'm saying, does that really go to next game? Does that really carry into the next game? Maybe the hatred between those two players, but you're not going to see them square up again. I mean, Pasta needs to keep his gloves on.
I'm saying for the team though. If you're on the team,
but no, that's why I'm saying when you lose a game, when you're getting beat on the ice, you need to find a way to leave a mark on the game. And like we said, they decided, you're beating us on the ice, we're going to try to beat you in the alley, and the Bruins kind of chopped it up. I mean. Montour did his thing after his goal, and he got right in Marshy's face and did the licking thing. And you knew that was going to get a reaction. And then, Maroon comes in looking for trouble with Nick Cousins. I mean, I think everybody wants to murder that guy.
Yeah.
So
MYR Marine thinks that your writer comment was a shot at me.
Not necessarily, because I don't really
that wasn't at me, but everything Colby says is also a shot at me.
I don't really consider Johnny to be a writer, although he is a snowflake, no doubt about that. But I do think I think Johnny's okay with physicality and fighting, and I don't think you have a problem with that stuff, do you?
I fucking loved every second of that last night.
Yeah, awesome. So I think he's a snowflake in a lot of other arenas, NYR Marine, but I actually wasn't taking that. That was not directed at
Colby just thinks I'm soft and I'm too positive and I love life too much.
No, I think those are good qualities, Johnny.
So I kind of forgot where we were at.
Well, look, the big question that we're going to end this Boston, Florida conversation with is, and I don't really think it's a question, but you obviously go back.
Omar, right?
You obviously go back to Jeremy Swayman. You obviously do.
It's
but it's still going to be a question. People are going to ask. I mean, it's going to float around the media the next couple of days.
Well, this is why I thought that it should be the opposite. Have Omar game one, Swayman game two, just to give Swayman that night off. Because, I mean, I'm not saying he needed the night off last night. He played fine. Like, I know it looks bad score-wise. What they yank him after 4? They took him out after the fourth one, right? Yep. So obviously that doesn't look good, but if you look at the goals, like not a lot of them, I don't know if even any of them were really his fault.
None of them were bad goals.
So, I think you go back to the guy that's, gotten you to this point. And that's no discredit to Ullmark, right? Like he's more than capable of coming in and playing well, but Swayman is your guy and you're going to lose a hockey game. It's the playoffs. Like you can't all be the New York Rangers and go 6-0, like you're going to lose a game. So if it's me, going back to Boston, nonetheless, on home ice, I think you got to go with Swayman.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be, I don't even think it should be a conversation at this point.
Well, it will be. But
it will be just to fill air. It's just to fill air,
It will be, but it really shouldn't be. Ben said Bruins also went 15 minutes without a shot on goal. Yeah. I mean, look,
it was all Florida last
night. Once the second period rolled around, the Bruins were not in that hockey game. And credit Florida. They got rolling. They started playing with more pace. They started getting pucks up quicker. You know, they weren't going east-west. Their forecheck was really good last night. I mean, the Panthers can forecheck like really better than any team in the league when they're going, the way they get in. And again, they created so many turnovers. Forbert had a bad turnover that ended up in the back of the net trying to break the puck out. McAvoy, when he lost his stick on the third goal, that's a good forecheck and a good opportunity for Florida to get in on a 50-50 battle. And they were just more hungry. They won more puck battles. Their power play got on the board. So this series got interesting, no doubt. I think the Florida Panthers woke up. I still don't think this series is a 7-game series. I really don't. I don't see it, but we'll see. I honestly,
5 too. You had Panthers in 5.
I don't 5 or 6.
Okay,
but look,
I've been 5, but
I've been pretty off with my game 1 predictions in round 2. I thought Dallas would win game 1, just coming off of game 7. I thought they'd win. I thought the Rangers would win game 1, so I guess I got that one right. But yeah, I thought Edmonton would also win game 1, and I thought 4-1, and I started dozing off because I just didn't think this game was really going anywhere. Even though, look, the Canucks they didn't come out and lay an egg. I mean, they get up, they take a penalty early, which just completely kills your flow, and then all of a sudden players who don't kill start sitting on the bench a little bit early. They don't get into the game. So I think it took Vancouver longer to get into that hockey game. But look, last night featured 2 bad goaltending performances on both sides of Edmonton and Vancouver.
But also, what did we talk about yesterday with these two teams? The bottom 6 and the top 6, we gave Edmonton the edge, and the bottom 6 for Vancouver was the difference. Dakota Joshua, big goal. Elias Lindholm scores a goal. Connor Garland is the game winner. It's the third line, the depth players for Vancouver that stepped up. JT Miller had a nice goal as well, but those are the guys you need in games like that, right? And I know you can put a lot of blame on Skinner for a couple of those goals. I thought the Zadorov third goal or the fourth goal that tied it and the Garland goal were pretty.
I mean, the Garland goal is atrocious.
Yeah, the Garland goal is really bad.
You can't let that in late in the third period in a playoff game. You have no chance to win.
I mean, credit to Garland for the move. It's a Jason Spezza, Mika Zibanejad type of move where you fake the slap shot, get the goalie to open up his 5-hole and try to slip it through. But the positioning on Skinner on this goal was like, what the fuck is he doing? I mean, look at this angle of it on Sportsnet. Garland has a ton of speed coming to the zone. Watch him fake that slap shot, open up the 5-hole. But Skinner's like 3 feet out of the crease, like on the goal line. I mean, in that position, you can't allow that goal at that point in the game, especially when your team allowed a goal, I think even less than a minute before to tie the game. It's just tough stuff for the Oilers. And Connor McDavid, no shots on goal in that game. The Oilers get 4 shots in the second period, 4 shots in the third period. Like, what the hell happened to that offense last night? Because they were buzzing early on in the game. And just like you, Colby, I thought that was a no-brainer. I thought Edmonton was going to run away with it. I was just awake because I was awake and I had it on.
So why don't you tell me a little bit? Because I mean, I watched the highlights this morning.
Yeah,
I saw the goals, but look, I said yesterday that I think the whole defensive. Everybody says, well, are the Oilers going to play good enough defense? I think the problem is generally the puck management for them. Bad puck management just leads to too many opportunities for whoever they're playing. I think that's usually more the issue than actual defense, because they skate with such pace. So what, how is the flow of the game going in the second half of the game? Because like I said, I didn't see it.
All Vancouver. And another thing too, we talk about special teams, right? The Oilers only had 1 power play opportunity. It came early in the game. It was their first goal, I believe, when Zach Hyman scored. They don't get another power play the rest of the game. And that's a team that, while they are good at 5-on-5, I think their power play fuels them a bit, right? They feed off of it. And when you aren't getting opportunities or power plays, the game tightens. And then, all of a sudden, Edmonton, their offense kind of just disappeared. Second and third period, the fact that they weren't getting any shots on goal. And listen, we saw Vancouver do a good job at limiting Nashville's offense in round 1, but the Nashville Predators offensively are not the Edmonton Oilers offensively. And that was a big question going in, right? It's like, okay, Edmonton, Vancouver, Archer Chilov is like, yeah, he made a lot of saves and they limited chances against Ryan O'Reilly and Philip Forsberg, who are great players, but they're not Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman. Yeah.
let me just chime in. Didn't I
Mhm.
make a reference last show about Sheloffs and when the clock was going to strike midnight and the carriage was going to turn into a pumpkin? I'm pretty sure I said that yesterday's show.
You might have said that
Because
on Daily Face Off Live. I don't know if
see,
I remember saying it here.
Vic just put that right into our chat.
You
I
did?
did say it yesterday.
Oh, today? No, he said it today.
No, I said it on our show at some point yesterday because it was in our chat yesterday. I specifically remember it. And then we
Oh,
talked about how
okay.
you still don't know that reference.
Yeah, I
But
don't. Yeah, I
it
don't.
just,
That's right.
yeah, see, Vic said I said
Why
it
is
yesterday.
Mhm.
And that's what happened. I mean, you see guys come into the playoffs with no experience. We saw it with Akita Schmid last year with the Devils.
Akira Schmid. Yeah.
Akira, like he
Akira.
strung together a little bit of good hockey, and then he comes out the next year and he's just not, he couldn't do it, right? He ends up back in the minors. You see that with guys, and that was always my concern with Vancouver riding with Sheloffs when you have Casey DeSmith, who's a much more proven commodity. And I think they got burned on it. Well, sorry, I guess they don't get burned on it. But I wonder now, what does Rick Tocchet do? Do you keep Sheloffs in because you won? Like, how do you take the guy out if they won? But he was not good. I mean, he gave you, C+ level goaltending from what the goals I saw. But now, granted, I didn't see all the chances that he saw. You're telling me that it was all Vancouver the second half of the game. But at least winning this game buys them a little more time to get back to Demko. That gives you a little bit more breathing room to get back to Thatcher Demko.
Yeah, everyone's talking about the Cinderella reference, and this happened on the show like 3 months ago. We did this whole thing again, the pumpkin thing.
I say it all the time because it's a great reference.
Yeah,
I have a 1-year-old, and all we watch is Frozen and Cinderella and
I don't
other
have that.
movies.
I don't have that. I
I
watch
could have seen
Bluey
you as
with
a
my
big
nephew every now and
Cinderella
then.
guy, Johnny.
Me, I was more. I like Frozen for sure, and I like that Moana movie. It's pretty good. But I don't. Yeah, I mean, I have a nephew, but I don't like
See,
watch a lot of shows.
JC has my back in the chat. He says he remembers the comment
Yeah,
from me. So
yeah.
look, it happened. That was my fear with
But
Sheloff. And now what do? If you're Rick Tocchet,
I would
what do you
keep him
do?
in. I would keep him in.
Keep him in until he loses.
Yeah, he's winning games, and listen, while he wasn't great yesterday, goaltending against Edmonton, you just need him to be good enough, right? Because we've seen it enough with Edmonton goaltending, and Stuart Skinner has been, solid to this point, but last night he was not. And I think as long as you have the guy like Sheloffs that's making enough saves to help you win, you don't need him to be lights out, right? Like, actually, you know what? I take that back because the Oilers. I don't know if that's Edmonton or Vancouver playing so great last night defensively, or if Edmonton didn't have enough. Like, did Vancouver really shut them down, or did Edmonton not have their A game? That's kind of the question you are left asking when you see the Oilers only have 8 shots on goal in the last 2 periods. Like, you have to imagine they'll have a ton of pushback in game 2, but I still think you stick with Sheloffs just because of,
Right.
the winning factor and the mojo and the feng shui, for lack of a better term,
I'm reading this comment from Ben Benya. Shelovs and DeSmith are interchangeable right now. There's almost no advantage/disadvantage to either one
I
right
agree.
now, other
I
than
agree.
age and regular season experience, which doesn't matter here. So all I'm going to tell you is that I don't agree that regular season experience doesn't matter here. The fact of the matter is one guy has played a lot of NHL games and one guy has played very few NHL games. And I think when you are a NHL goaltender, which DeSmith has been now for a while, there's certain tendencies, there's certain ability to read rushes. There's just familiarity with buildings, there's familiarity with shooters. So I do think that, it's a reasonable comment because there's not a lot of playoff experience for either goalie, but to say regular season experience doesn't matter, Ben, I don't agree with that. I do think.
Oh no, I agree that they're interchangeable.
No, I know. I'm just addressing Ben in the chat, who puts. I think that he puts pretty good, thought-provoking, statements, comments, questions in the chat. But I have to part with you towards the end of that because I just think that you really can't replicate reps. And I know that's I'm saying replicate reps, but you can't. You really can't. And one thing Casey DeSmith has a lot more of is reps at the NHL level. And so while playoffs is a different beast, there are more intricacies that I just think DeSmith would be comfortable with and more prepared for. So, we've heard a lot of people talk. Frank said it on DFO Live about how the organization might even think Sheloffs is a better goaltender than DeSmith. I think that's short-sighted, because how can you really know what a guy is with that small body of work? I think if we've all learned anything, and if you listen to me, at least, whether you hate me, agree with me, disagree with me, most of you probably disagree with me all the time, but I will say something that you've got to get a big enough body of work before you really fully learn who someone is. We can't make decisions based on, 15, 20 games in the league.
Well, to your point, Akira Schmid last year comes in for the Devils and has a magnificent series against the Rangers, and then, not as strong against the Hurricanes in round 2, but the Devils thought that he was the solution to their goaltending issues. And this year, they thought he'd be the guy, and look at what happened to the Devils. Like, he just wasn't the guy because, to your point, Colby, not enough, what was the word you said it? Not enough
reps
or I guess, backlogging of work and proof of success. So sure, like, Sheloffs can have a little bit of a hot streak right now, but that doesn't necessarily means that is who he is. I'm struggling with words right now. You know what I mean? So I agree with you on that. But like, when a guy is hot like this, I still, even if you don't think he's playing that well, if he's winning games,
you're going to keep him in.
Winning games, you got to
keep him in until you lose. And I see some people in the chat saying pretty much the same thing. I think what a pumpkin Schmid is. I like the reference on that one. Look, I wouldn't look. I think they'll stay with him.
I mean, once Demko's healthy, you're putting him in.
Yeah, and someone asked, is Demko, Weinberg asked if Demko is still sick. Demko's not dealing with a sickness. Demko is dealing with an injury, but he's back skating. Johnny, what did, just moving away from the goalies a little bit, because I think we've definitely probably talked about them enough at this point. Was Pettersson a no-show the second half of the game like he was the first half of the game, or was he a little bit better?
He wasn't that noticeable. I don't think he stood out as much. I thought JT Miller was fucking great though. JT Miller he's a gamer, man. There's been a lot of hot takes about JT Miller this year. Pasha specifically on Spit and Chicklets, who's a friend, and he has taken that personally for sure, and he's been on a vendetta. His goal last night, that deflection from the goal line, like very Sidney Crosby-esque, Chris Kreider type of goal. I'm forgetting which defenseman. It might have been Hronek that moves it down to him, but that little like chip shot from the goal line to kind of get the puck up a little bit to beat Skinner here. And here's a highlight of the video. Good stuff, Vic, courtesy of ESPN. But that's such a tough play to make, and that's what gets Vancouver going, right? They score 3 goals in I think a little bit north of 4.5 minutes to not only tie that game but take the lead. And it's JT Miller making a big play.
Where is Knobloch using his timeout? I mean, if I'm an Oilers fan, I'm a little bit annoyed and feel like he missed an opportunity to use that timeout to stop the bleeding. I mean, things are buzzing and blitzing down your throat. Where are you at, Knobloch?
Vic, can you put that back up for a second? Just that second angle of the Miller goal, like the behind the net view, because I want to ask Colby. This is something that we've talked about now all playoffs. Good goals, bad goals. To you, is this one Skinner has to have? To me, this is a great fucking goal. Like, that's a tough angle.
Listen, you're talking about a redirection, a completely crafty. Skinner has to respect the shot there. Do not think that that's a soft goal. I mean, look, I can look at just about any goal that's not a wide open net in the playoffs and say, if you want to win a Stanley Cup, you've got to come up with some of those. But I'm not putting that goal on Skinner. I mean, would you like him to get it? Yeah. Could that have been the difference in the game? Well, it's a 1-goal game. Yeah. So, but I wouldn't put that in the category of a disappointing goal or a deflating goal. I think that was a really high end play. And remember, we watched that in slow motion. That's happening at lightning fast speed. That puck is zipped. that redirection happens quick. I don't think that's something that you put on him. So look, it looks like Vancouver, Edmonton's going to be a tougher series than I thought. I think than most people thought. Jeremiah was the only one, or we might have had one or two people in the chat yesterday throwing Vancouver down, other than Jeremiah. But I didn't expect that to happen, and I think the Oilers have their moments every year in the playoffs, and then they usually come back and come back with a with a good effort and an A effort, and a lot of that's going to depend on Skinner for sure. But Connor McDavid's not going to stay quiet multiple games in a row.
No.
So I think if anything,
we're in last night, but
we're looking at these series that we thought might not have been super tight and super long, and now we're seeing that they might be both. We might see 7 in Boston, Florida, which I don't think a lot of people saw. It looks like this Vancouver Edmonton series could go deeper than we initially thought. But let's see how game 2s work out. Let's see who's going up 2, who's down 1. Or who's deadlocked at 1, and we'll keep riding as this playoff goes along. So on the record, we say Shelovs, and we'll see what Rick Tocchet does.
Yeah. The last thing I just want to say about that series is there a concern for Leon Draisaitl? He left the game with cramps in the second period, comes back in the third, but if you're an Oilers fan, that's got to be something in the back of your mind. Like maybe he's not at 100% right now.
No.
What?
I mean, have you ever cramped up during a game?
Honestly, no.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's happened to me before. It's awful. Once anybody who's in our chat right now that's dealt with this, whether you're playing tennis, whether you're working out in the gym or whatever, like once your leg or your core or whatever starts cramping up, it's really hard to get on top of that and to come back on that. Normally you've got to start pumping electrolytes and bananas and, maybe you get a fluid bag. I think maybe he's just got to be a little bit more well prepared and a little bit better hydrated if that's truly what it was. But cramping up, the building could have been warmer last night than they expected. I mean, any number of things could go on there. So Draisaitl cramping up is not something that I think anybody should have concern about long term.
You know what I did before every game the night before? I took down a whole Pedialyte the night before every game. Kind of wild. I got a lot of shit for that from people. I don't know if that was like so good for me, but it was.
Well, I mean, look, we had Pedialyte on our benches. Most of the teams I played, I
literally had a full thing every night before a game.
Gatorlights, Pedialyte. So, I think now they have better options. Like I use this thing called LMNT or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Those are great.
I take those before I ride, before I jump on the Peloton or I have other ones, but you gotta take care of that stuff, but I don't foresee that having any lingering effects. So moving along here, Johnny boy.
Let's take a look at something that doesn't really have to do with the playoff.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't give a shit about this right now. Like I could not care any less about Utah's team name in the midst of all the playoff stuff going on. But it's something
let me ask you this
about.
then. Because everybody saw this on Twitter yesterday. And so do us a favor, drop the name in the chat that you saw on social media yesterday, that they're down to whatever 20 names that you guys actually like for Utah. Throw those in the chat. Are you surprised, Johnny, about the fact that they're going to go no name this year and then they're going to like basically come out in 25, 26 with their official branding? Does that you think that's a good idea?
I'm surprised by it. I know Washington did that. They called themselves the Washington football team for a year, and people made fun of it the entire time. I don't think it's a good look if you want to have a new team and don't have a name for it. So I don't like that they're doing that. But again, like these names that I've seen on the list, like there's not one that sticks out to me where I'm like, oh, that's the one, And I
think Mammoth, Utah Mammoth, maybe.
I hate that.
But again, let me ask you a question. How did you feel about Golden Knights when you first heard that?
Yeah, I didn't love Golden Knights either, but
and let me ask you a question. How do you feel about it now?
I like it now because it fits them,
Okay.
Same with the Kraken, it just fits them. It does.
Exactly. Yeah. And Vic and I were talking offline, and I bet you people in our chat
get a hockey team. How is that going to work?
People in our chat, the Storm and Mormons. That's pretty funny. I think people in our chat will remember when, the Columbus Blue Jackets came into the league, or the Minnesota Wild weren't the Minnesota North Stars. And like those names all felt kind of chintzy to me when I first heard them, because they just weren't what I was used to. And then over time, they've all become who they are. And now none of them bother me. I hated Kraken. I thought Vegas Golden Knights was but now I think it's a great name, and it works for their personality, and it works for the arena and their jerseys. And, same thing with the Kraken, so all I will say is, no matter how bad of a name they pick, it will eventually grow on us. Within 5 seasons, we'll forget that they're an expansion team. And then the one other thing we talked about, and I want to hear again in the chat, we want to, I want to get your all opinion on this as well. But I think Utah Hockey Club sounds really cool because it's different. But my worry with Utah Hockey Club is, in like 5 years, I'll be like, that's kind of shit. Yeah. Like, they don't have a team.
Oh, you want that like permanently, not just for a year?
Well, no, I'm saying that's one of the options on the permanent 20 is Utah HC. And what I was saying is I think it's cool when like soccer teams or quote unquote football teams have that.
Everyone has it.
FC on their name, I just think that's cool, but I think it would wear off. Like, that's so I think I would like that right now, especially because in life we're in this kind of like retro phase where we're bringing all this old stuff from like our childhood, from our childhoods or the 80s, the 90s, whatever. Like, I know that's not so much your childhood, but that stuff is coming back right now with colors and with Adidas and jumpsuits and baggy clothes and shit like that. So
I said it as a joke a couple weeks ago, and I know Vic is gonna laugh and you're gonna call me a fucking idiot, but I really have come around to the name the Utah Beast. I think it's actually kind of sick. And I say that word all the time, like as a joke and like kind of sarcastically. Like, whenever we hop on in the mornings to do our pre-production meeting, I always go to Vic, because it's always me and Vic on first. And I'm like, "What's up, you fucking beast?" And like, then Colby comes on and I say to Colby, he's like, "Oh, you're doing this again this morning." But
the Utah St. Lakes Snowflakes.
I really do like the name, the Utah Beast. I think that's actually kind of sick.
Yeah, I don't think it's kind of sick at all.
I know, but I said it jokingly, and now I've really come around to it. And I feel like I'm curious on people in the chat, because Beast is like a younger person word now that's kind of used, I feel like. But I don't know. I feel like I'll get ripped on in the chat for this, but the Utah Beast sounds pretty cool to me. I don't know.
Look, I'm just glad, and Jeremiah said this in the chat as well. I think it's smart that they're taking their time. It's not like the players have no name brand recognition. Like, we already know these players. We're not bringing players into Utah that nobody's ever heard of before. So I think it's smart that they're taking their time. And they're not going to rush into something, because obviously this is something that they hope lasts forever and will sort of be the building blocks of the Utah franchise. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, it was news yesterday. Felt like we needed to at least address it today. What are we going to get into out west here, Johnny?
Well, I'm reading some of the chat, and MYR Marine goes, "Beast is terrible, Johnny. Grow up." And no one has really taken the bait on my Beast idea. So
just leave it alone. Don't encourage this idiot.
We'll put that one to rest. But Colby, I got a question for you. What's brand new, comes in mint green and maroon, and makes you feel invincible?
I don't know, Johnny. Why do I feel like you're going to tell me anyway?
Well, I'm going to tell you what it is, and that's the Out West Zakara Performance Hoodies. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The fellas at Out West just dropped 2 brand new colors of hoodies on the site. Perfect for foggy morning rounds on the course and cool summer nights on the patio. Ignite your style this summer with a lightweight hoodie, just like the one I'm wearing right now. Colby wears his throughout the week. I think he wears it twice a week on the show. But who doesn't love a classic mint green paired with a navy pair of shorts, or true maroon styled with your favorite joggers? So head on over to outwestgolf.com and grab yours with the code CUPPA, that's CUPPA in all caps, for 15% off of your first order. Out West, every game needs an outlaw. They are the best. We love them. The logo is sick. The clothes are super comfy. We are getting our new clothes. They're on the way. So fire to get a different color. I've been wearing the maroon, the blue, but now I get some mint green and some maroon for the UMass colors I can represent. But go check out outwestgolf.com and use our code CUPPA for 15% off. So Let's get into our out west worst team of the week. The team everyone loves talking about and everyone loves shitting on, and that is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Because Colby, you actually came up with this one, not Vic. I saw the rundown and I was like, Vic, we're really going to talk about the fucking Leafs again? And he goes, no, it was Colby. So explain yourself, Colby. Why are you picking Toronto as the worst team of the week this week?
Well, we can't pick San Jose anymore because they just landed Macklin Celebrini. So they're no longer the worst team of the week. And look, what's going on in Toronto? Why are they leaving Jerry Keefe? Why are they leaving Sheldon Keefe dangling right now? Fire the guy, let him move on. Enough is enough. Get out and speak. I know that management is doing their press conference, I believe, on Friday. Vic, is that correct?
I thought it was today.
No, it's on Friday. Like, why are the Leafs dragging this situation out? I mean, make the people aware of what's going on. Sheldon Keefe, man, that guy has been sitting on the hot seat year in and year out. And, everyone wants to know now we know Tree Living, Shanahan, and the CEO are speaking. So obviously nothing's happening there. People I'm already starting to see backtrack on Mitch Marner on social media about how, we might have to keep him for one more year and see if maybe he can prove himself next year. And I saw Biz tweet that.
Yeah, Biz went off on him though.
The Toronto Maple, but then he retracted the next day. He put out like an apology retraction, video. So to me, even when they're not playing, the media is still hating on them. On Stephen A. Smith's show the other day,
I was thinking the same thing, Vic. Vic just said Paul Marner probably called him. I was thinking the same
Who's
thing.
the crazy guy that does Stephen A. Smith's show once a week? He's the New York guy. He screams a lot. What's his name? I know who he is. I'm drawing a blank. He's like a major personality. He does a lot of radio. Mad Dog. Mad Dog Roos, or yeah, he was yelling at the Leafs about what a disaster they are. And, Mitch Marner and his God's comment. I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs just continue to, make headlines for all the wrong reasons. So we'll continue to wait. Maybe the news will come out today about Keefe. Why they're letting this drag out if they know they're firing him? Why are you telling him you can be a part of the player meetings if you want? Like, what? I mean, just could you be professional here, please? Like, cut the guy loose.
They're just waiting for the Rangers to knock out Carolina so they can fire Keefe and snag Rod Brind'Amour. That's what Vic wants, right?
Get your vacancy open and get your search started already. Like, what are you doing? So that's why I thought the Toronto Maple Leafs were the worst team of the week. I kept hearing the comments. Tavares said we were right there. Keefe, the team game plan is for the Leafs to beat themselves. It's a problem. Any way you look at it, it's time for a new voice. It's time for a new
narrative.
It's just time for a lot of new things in Toronto. And the other thing they should do if they're smart is lock up Jake McCabe, because he proved to be a huge addition. So who knows? Maybe Austin, I don't feel too good. Matthews will end up with the C on his jersey. I don't know how many cups Toronto's going to win with that, but they'll certainly score a lot of goals in the regular season. So that's all I got for those guys. That's why I thought they deserve to be our out West worst team of the week. And yes, I'm not wearing my out West hoodie today. I think I had it on yesterday. But I wore it. I
think you thought yesterday was Thursday though.
I wore it to ride yesterday. And I got to tell you, man, this thing, you can do anything in that hoodie. I need more of them. I think you said they're sending us some more.
And I'm also, I don't know just for reference, I'm in an XL. I also like my clothes a little bit like baggier with more room. So just for a little reference on my side.
I probably need a double XL if you're in an XL.
Why? Because you're 6'4".
I'm a lot bigger of a human being than you are.
Yeah, but you're also.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say it like that. I don't know where you're going with that with your stupid voice, but I'm what 3-4 inches bigger than you and probably 20 pounds heavier.
Yeah, I'm like 5'10.5".
And what are you, about a $170?
Jewish 6 foot.
Are you $170?
No, I'm 185. But I intermittent fast. I haven't weighed myself in a bit, so maybe
I'm 215 and I'm.
My beard's adding a little bit of poundage though.
So all right, well that's a perfect segue. We have a beard specialist coming on the show today just to shit on Johnny about his beard.
I've been getting a lot of compliments, but
let's
let me just talk about our Perasso playoff preview. We have a special guest for this one. So this is presented by Perasso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Perasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Perasso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15 at Perasso-USA.com. And we are welcoming in Anthony Barriola, a Perasso master barber, a big Boston Bruins fan with the, what do you call those hats again? What the
fedora
show?
The Scally cap. Well, you guys look at them like Peaky Blinder caps.
Yeah, Peaky Blinders. Yeah. Is that a Bruins themed one? It's got to be, right?
It is. We have little Jerry Cheevers in the on the inside, thanks to my brother-in-law.
Oh, that's sick. So, Anthony, tough go for your guys last night, but where are you at right now? Where are you coming at us from?
I'm crying in my breakfast here at the table. That's where I'm at right now. That was just miserable. Oh, it was so bad coming off the high of the first game, and then you come in flat like that in the second game. It was terrible. How can I be?
Yeah,
how could I couldn't wake up in good mood today.
What'd you think of Pasta dropping his gloves?
I mean, I appreciate him for going out and giving the effort, but I mean, unnecessary, right? I mean, what did it really give us? Honestly, that's my opinion. I like that he stepped up and said somebody needs to go at Tkachuk for chirping, but Pastrnak of all people.
All right, so then what's better, the fight or Johnny's beard right now?
Well, definitely Johnny's beard. Did you see the fight? Did you see Pasta? I mean, he swung and it looked like he caught nothing but air. It was. Yeah, Johnny's beard looks good. I don't know what you're cracking on him for. No, it looks good.
I gotta figure out the little extra parts of it though. Like I have some that like hangs off, and that's. I don't know if you know this, Anthony, but we talk about my dating life on here every now and then, and I've been struggling because of I think my game lately. But the beard has actually helped me. I think I look a little bit more distinguished.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if the chat would agree, but
gives you a little bit more masculinity and virility.
Yeah, but just keeping it to the Bruins a little bit more. We've been talking about Swayman, Ullmark. Colby and I don't even think it's a debate anymore. Game 3, are you going right back to Swayman? Like you're riding it out with him the rest of the way?
100%. I mean, look at it. Ullmark got thrown into the fire yesterday, so you can't really blame him for what went on. But Swayman he's just been too good. The team in front of him gave him nothing. What did they do in front of him besides screen him, turn over the puck? I mean, they didn't help him much. And it almost feels like they're leaning on the fact that he's been so good that there's just no effort in front of him yesterday. They were just leaning on how good he's been and hoped that he was going to save the game. How many more times can he save us? 100%. Go Swayman. Sway all day.
There's certainly a lot of hockey left to be played in that series. The Bruins, the Florida Panthers are seemingly turning into a little bit of a rivalry here, which we love. But let's get to some of the other stuff here with you, because obviously you're here for a reason. We see the Perasso logo on your shirt. Johnny's got the product in his hand. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your relationship with Perasso? Obviously, they're one of our great sponsors. Johnny's growing the playoff beard out. He's got all the grooming.
I've been using the oil,
the grooming tools, the grooming kit. So give us a little background on yourself and what you're doing here, really.
Right. I own a barbershop out here in Somerville, Massachusetts, and also another one in Cambridge, and along with my brother Joe, and we are both Perasso. I'm going backwards because I can't. Am I left or right?
The camera's all mirrored.
Yeah, everything. It's all mirrored. You think staring in a mirror all day I'd have this down, but clearly I don't. but we're both what we call Perasso Maestro Barbieri. So we've had the opportunity to go out to Italy and train with the best barbers out there for Perasso for quite some time, and learn the trade, learn the tricks, learn the techniques, and just gain some certification. And they recognize us as some of the best with the beards and the shaving around the country, and we're very proud of that here. So I can definitely give you some good pointers on that beard, Johnny. It's not
this is all I've really been using is the oil. So is there anything else you actually recommend?
Yeah, I think the oil's good. If your beard is a little shorter, which it looks to me to be on the shorter side right now, I would suggest Perasso's beard balm. The balm is good for really short beards because the product is going to get underneath the hairs and onto the skin to help moisturize the skin a little underneath. Like, did you get that itchiness that you when you were first starting to grow it
yeah.
out?
Oh yeah, I
That's
still have it.
exactly what. Okay, so that's exactly what the beard balm is for. You massage that on when you come out of the shower, and it helps to moisturize the skin underneath the beard as well as the hairs of the beard, so that you can uh, relieve that itch, relieve the dryness. And then as the beard gets longer, hopefully you're going to grow it out for the rest of the playoffs. And when it gets a little bit longer and grows out,
Well,
to
the
say, like,
Rangers are going the rest of the way, so I got it, right?
hey, that's what you think. And that you can you switch over to the oil as it gets a little bit longer. So they have a product that is for all stages of beard growth, which I think is a pretty great thing that not all beard companies have.
Well, I think the Bruins coaching staff needs to get you down to TD Garden and let you start working directly with some of the boys. Just get them looking good, get the beards looking good. I'll tell you what, in 2011, and I'd have to root through my phone right now to grab some pictures, but
it's not your background.
When we no, it's not my background. When we went on that cup run in 2011, my neck beard was far and above better than the beard anywhere else on my entire face. And as a rookie, I was scared to trim anything. I felt like if I came in one day and I trimmed my neck and I left everything else, I would have got shit on pretty quickly by the vets. So I just let it go. And I mean, I was looking at a picture the other day on the plane after the game, sitting next to Johnny Boychuk, and Tomas Kaberle, who couldn't really grow a beard at all. Like Cabs was way worse than mine, but Boychuk's was so good and like so burly. And I was just like, oh man, I look like a 13-year-old kid who basically tried to tape facial hair onto my face to give myself a beard. Now I was only 21 years old. And as you can see now, I can grow a beard, but not a great one. So I think the Bruins, maybe they need a little bit of beard care down at the TD Garden from you.
Maybe. I mean, listen, if you laid in front of as many pucks as Johnny Boychuk did, or, just buried people against the boards as much as he did, that beard here would have grown to manly status as quick as his did, because that dude was a man. I love Johnny Boychuk.
I was usually up on the 9th floor in my suit with the other healthy scratches, eating popcorn throughout the game. So I definitely can't sit there and pretend to have played anywhere near as hard-nosed as Johnny Boychuk or Dennis Seidenberg or Big Z, who had one of the better beards. Like, just, he looked like a scary, outdoorsman when he had, like, you need to get him one of those wood choppers and just send him out into the forest with his beard. So
yeah, Paul Bunyan status.
Anthony, our chat is saying they got to get you behind the Bruins bench with that hat on, because everyone seems to love the hat. Pretty badass. But we want to thank you so much for doing this. And I was told by Parasso, if the Rangers win the cup, that I'm being flown out to Italy for some beard care and a nice haircut. Is that true?
Listen, I'll stand behind that. But I think if you're going to get flown out to Italy for that, then you might need an assistant. You might need a translator or something. So Parasso,
right,
I want to get in with Johnny. All right.
Fair enough. Thank you, Anthony. Really appreciate it. And I'm pulling for the Bruins.
Anthony,
real quick, conference final.
Real quick, Anthony, give us your two where are your two shops? You've got one in.
It's called Razor's Barbershop. One is in Somerville, Massachusetts, and the other one's in Cambridge.
Gotcha. And Somerville's next to Charlestown. It's basically Boston. It probably, you can't tell a difference. It's probably near that near Encore, I would assume, right? And then you're talking about Cambridge, which again, it's basically Boston. Cambridge is you go over this basically a little footbridge and you're in Cambridge. I went to school at BU, Anthony, and I was with the Bruins for a while, so I know my way around pretty well. So make sure you check out those barbershops if you're in the Boston area. Obviously ask for Anthony. Tell if you are able, and we do have people from Boston, let them know you saw him on the show. You're a Morning Cup of Hockey person, and I'm sure you'll get some special treatment from Anthony and his group at his barbershops.
100%. And hopefully as this series progresses, I can chat with you guys a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Sure. Well, thanks for coming on today. We appreciate it. Have a good rest of your week. Keep giving Johnny tips, because, the way the Rangers are going right now, it does look like they're in for a pretty good run.
Yeah, they do. Good win for you guys the other night. Congrats.
All right, Anthony. Have a good one, man.
Appreciate it.
All right. Ciao, guys.
See ya. All right, Kobe, let's get into that while we're talking about it. The Rangers Hurricanes tonight is game 3. I'm going to the Rangers morning skate in about an hour from now. They're on the ice at 11:30. Teams that go up 2-0 have won 88.6% of series. You're calling this one a must win for Carolina, right?
I am not.
What?
Am I calling this a must win for Carolina? Yeah, you don't want to go down 3-0 in a series. You want to win this hockey game. I think that's that's a fair statement at this point on home ice. I think even Pierre made a really good point last night. Usually there's no panic until you lose a game on home ice. Now that applies to everyone, but especially to the Carolina Hurricanes, a team that's been so dominant at home and so dreadful on the road. Maybe dreadful is not the right word, but the big questions tonight is really, are they going to stay out of the box? Are they going to continue to feed this power play, this Rangers team that just seems to be feeling it on the power play and so dangerous when they're getting these opportunities 5-on-4? They're getting hurt by some of the top players. So I would expect Carolina to win tonight. I really would. I mean, if the Rangers get up 3, the series is as good as done. You're not going to win 4 straight against the New York Rangers the way that they're playing with Igor Shesterkin. I feel pretty confident in saying that. But I mean, what do you think? You flew down there to cover this game.
Ben Benya just made a point that I was going to lead into. This 2-0 lead, Rangers fans, they know better. They're not comfortable with it because you think back to 2 years ago, Rangers were up 2-0 against Tampa Bay going into Tampa. They lose 4 straight and they lose that series. Last year, up 2-0 against the Devils. They come home up 2-0. They lose the next 4 out of 5 and 7. They lose that series. The Washington series, they go up 2-0. They take care of business, but Carolina is a different team. So if you're a Rangers fan right now, you're probably not sitting comfortable. And as far as rally goes, yes, D. Ely, I see you in the chat. I thought you'd be in the chat yesterday. I was going to tell you we should meet up for a beer. I went to Sport and Social last night in Fenton and watched the games there. It was awesome. They had Hurricanes flags all over. Apparently that place, gets pretty rowdy for the Canes game. So I imagine it'll be packed tonight. But this is my first game at PNC Arena tonight, and I'm really excited for the atmosphere. I'm looking forward to it. Everyone says, or some players have said that it's kind of like, playing against the Islanders at Nassau Coliseum. It has that older, tight barn, low ceiling, loud feel to it. So I'm fired up for a game. But the Hurricanes didn't skate yesterday. They're not skating today. Brind'Amour is available at 11:15 to talk to the media, so we'll hear from him. The Rangers are expected to have a full lineup at their morning skate, so we'll see what the vibes are for them.
Let's talk lineups for a few minutes here before we roll out. And I know we still got to talk a little Colorado Dallas, but you think Kuznetsov comes back into the lineup tonight?
I think so. And it was something that did we talk about that yesterday or no?
I don't think so.
I was probably talking about that with somebody else, but when you play Maxime Comtois, like, he got, I think like 7, 8 minutes of, something like that of ice time. Like against the Rangers right now, Carolina needs as many goal scorers as they can have. And Kuznetsov, has done it in the playoffs, right? Like he is a proven playoff guy, even if he hasn't been lights out for Carolina in this postseason, but he's been there like 4th line center. So you're not exactly begging for him to score goals, but if you have him out there, it makes their team a little bit more dangerous. So I think Kuznetsov gets back in. It's always good to sit a guy for one game, fire him up, put a fire in his ass a little bit, and then see him go out there and be a little bit extra motivated. But
what about in net? Are you confident Freddie Anderson gets the start again tonight for Carolina?
I would think so. Freddie Anderson's been good enough for them to win. Has he been lights out? No, but Shesterkin's just been better. I don't think Kochetkov gives them a much better chance than Anderson does. But again, Freddie Anderson has been fighting, injury bugs for the past couple of years. This is the most consecutive games he's played in quite a while. So, Rod said, and I think Vic just threw the quote in, we'll see how Freddie feels. So, maybe Anderson's not at 100%.
He definitely left the door open for him not to
he's
play.
not at 100% maybe.
He didn't come out and say, yeah, he's our guy. He said, let's see how he feels. So he did leave the door open. What about on the other side of the lineup? Is having Rempe play 4 minutes on in Carolina where you don't get the last change? Like, I'm wondering, maybe tonight's the night you sit him out with all the energy in that building, or maybe tonight's the night you don't, because you want him out there to potentially throw a couple of big hits and quiet the crowd. I don't know. That's a tricky one. But I don't think in a series that looks like it could be tight games with overtimes, and I just don't think having a guy who's only giving you 3 to 4 minutes a night is useful, especially when who's going to fight him? Nobody is going to fight him on Carolina. You're not going to put Lemieux in to fight him. Plus, Lemieux's a small guy, so I'm curious. Like, do you think
with Rempe, I said it. We have a comment, Thomas Schultz. I said it on my Blue Crew show yesterday that he's way more effective on home ice than he is on the road. Like if there's one game to take him out just to feel the vibe without him, it's putting in Brodzinski. But
the other thing you got to keep in mind is that when you have Rempe who doesn't play, you're getting more ice time to other guys. You're throwing Trocheck out for a shift with the fourth line.
Who's been playing great.
Kreider goes out for a shift with the fourth line. Late
Lafreniere too is getting double shifted at points.
You basically are finding a couple extra shifts for all your studs. And I think that potentially is one of the positives that comes with it. But does that hurt you in a long series, which maybe this won't be a long series? I still expect it to be. But it's 2-0 right now.
Yeah.
You're an overtime bounce away from being down 3 if you're Carolina. So before we move, and do our Betway and then we'll hit Colorado Dallas, because our Betway's on this game tonight. We did hit last night, by the way. Yeah. But just give me your prediction right now. I want you to give me not an I don't know. I want to know. Matt Rempe? Give me 2 different predictions, actually. 1, okay. Will Matt Rempe be in the lineup tonight?
Yes.
Okay. 2, do you think he should play tonight?
I don't. So Laviolette had a really good explanation as to why yesterday. And if you look at both sides, Nason plays a little bit more.
I'm asking you.
What? I'm not changing anything in the lineup right now. So I'm leaving him in.
Yes to 1 and yes to 2. Okay.
Yes.
Fair.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's do our Betway bet of the day before we go Colorado Dallas, because it pertains to this game. Betway is still offering you an opportunity to get reimbursed up to $200 on your first bet. Create an account using the QR code on your screen. Once you do that, you're locked in. Make your bets. If the bets don't hit, you'll get reimbursed up to $200. I would take advantage of a full $200 bet at least. You can sprinkle. You can follow us. We've been on a little bit of a hot streak lately, actually. We've probably, 3 for 4 in the last 4 nights, or
like that.
Maybe 4 out of 5 over the last 5. Please play responsibly. Offer is only available outside of Ontario. Betway is our presenting sponsor, so the more we interact with them and the more we use the codes and the QR codes, the more they're going to want to do business with us, which is great. While I have you, don't forget to like and subscribe. We've actually been doing really, really well with the support from you guys. Our downloads are way up. Our views on YouTube are way up. Our views on Twitter are way up. But all I would ask you guys, if you're here and you're active in the chat, which a lot of you are, give us a like. That really helps our episodes kind of rise up in front of other content that's getting put out there, and then more people will see it. That leads to growth. So we do appreciate it. It's an easy little click of a button, click of your finger, whatever you're using, whatever your device is. And it really goes a long way for us. What we're rolling with tonight, we're going to go with a little bit of a prop, and we're going to say Igor Shesterkin is going to have over 30.5 saves. You got to think on home ice, Carolina's going to shoot the puck and have 40 shots on goal. If this game gets into overtime, we definitely know we're going to see that many shots on goal. -105, so it's not juicy, but it's basically even money at -105. I think those are pretty good odds for something that I think is a pretty safe bet. Like I said, we hit last night. We took the over in that late game. We actually smashed it. I think, oh no, we didn't smash it. 4-3, it was 7, right? And it was 6.5, I believe, so we just hit it actually. Oh, it's 5-4, not 4-3.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were pretty safe on last night's, especially with that goaltending. So yes, we did smash it. Thank you, Vic. I appreciate it. New York Marine said, please bet against the New York Rangers again. I mean, listen, I haven't really made a habit betting against the New York Rangers. That was a one-time thing, thinking you really think they're going to get through 2. Now you just got to hope Carolina doesn't return the favor on home ice like we've seen them do before. All All right, let's talk a little Colorado Dallas, Johnny, and then we'll let you go because I know you're in Raleigh and you got to get over to the arena.
Yeah, so this is a bounce back game for the Stars, right? They're up 3-0, looking dominant against Colorado. Even in overtime, the first 5 minutes or so of overtime, it was all Dallas. Like I was like, oh, the Stars they're gonna recover from this and they're gonna win this game. And then all of a sudden, Miles Wood, out of a cannon, gets a breakaway goal against Hastings on that one-on-one. But if you're Dallas right now, you've got to feel good just knowing you were in this position in the last round against Vegas, who's probably, I don't want to say just as strong as Colorado, but they're right there with the Avalanche, right? As far as just the strength of a team goes. So, I think we have breaking news. Vic is going nuts right now. Jerry Keefe just got fired, apparently.
Not Jerry Keefe, Sheldon Keefe.
Sheldon Keefe. Should we talk about that quick? Or
I mean, listen, we knew he was getting fired.
Yeah.
Again, we were waiting to know when he was going to get fired. So I just said it 10 minutes ago. Cut the guy loose, move on, start the search. Enough is enough. Quit making the guy dangle in the wind. They made the call. Sheldon Keefe is fired. He is no longer the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He had quite a run between the American League and the NHL. He was probably there for 10 years, something like that. Mm-hmm. So, it'll be interesting now to see how quick do they move. Is it Craig Berube? We won't have a show tomorrow. So as the news starts to leak out or reactions, but who knows, maybe by Monday, the rumor mill will be started. The interview process maybe will have already started. And who knows, maybe tomorrow, maybe at the press conference, they will have an announcement to make that they've hired someone like Craig Berube. So check out Leafs Morning Take at 11 o'clock. It comes after our show. Leafs Morning Take is part of the same, family of networks, the Nation Network. So they're one of our team shows. Vic actually produces that show with Jay Rosehill and Nick Alberga. I'm sure they will have a lot to say.
Oh, yeah.
I see some of the comments. Jerry Keefe from Josh. Jerry Keefe, the coach of Northeastern, did not get fired. We should clarify that. I've made that mistake before too, by the way. But it is Sheldon Keefe, the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So that's all we got. So yeah, if you want to hang on and hear more about that, hit Leafs Morning Take at 11 a.m. They come up in 45, 50 minutes right after us. So back to Colorado Dallas, because obviously we just got thrown off a little bit on that. But the one thing I will say is Jake Ottinger started slow in round one too. And so they're going to need more from him. And again, is Dallas gonna lose the first two games again on home ice? Are we gonna see them? You got to be careful because the tank does start to get a little lower, as you go round by round. So coming back, it gets harder and harder to do. But Colorado, man, they seem like a pretty well-oiled machine right now.
Mm-hmm. And they're gonna be tough to slow down. And you got to think at some point, the Dallas Game 7 is going to catch up, right? Colorado had some time off, and usually you see sometimes teams that go from Game 7 to Game 1 usually have that fire going still, and they'll take Game 1. But this, for Colorado to pull that off, coming back from 3-0, they've done it so many times this year, and pull out that upset, you got to think they're feeling great coming into Game 2 tonight. But you have to imagine this is going to be the most desperate effort, if not even more desperate than we saw in Game 2 of last round for Dallas, because I'll say it again. Going into Colorado down 2-0, my confidence again would not be very strong in Dallas. And I know how good they are. I know they shut me up last round, but Colorado they're different. So we should see a pretty inspiring effort from Dallas.
Let me ask you a question. Who did you pick to win the series, Dallas or Colorado?
I had Dallas in 7 again.
So you picked against Colorado again.
Twice.
Well,
I won't do it next round if
it looks like that means Colorado will likely win this round. So look, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to if Colorado continues to play, I guess it would be puck management for me and not be high risk, high reward all game long. And they pick and choose their spots. I think sometimes they get a little loose with the puck when you highlight the areas of, let's say, 5 feet inside the blue line and 5 feet outside the blue line. You just can't get loose with pucks those have to be north-south. Those have to be plays where you get it down below the hash marks, whether it's skating or self chips. Every night in the playoffs, you see a goal that happens where it starts in the defensive zone. There's a chip out into the neutral zone, and then there's usually a double chip, and then you get in on a puck. You win a 50-50. You create a turnover. We saw it in the Bruin game yesterday. Florida did it. It was a masterclass of back ice plays and, chipping pucks in to areas where only they could get to it. And I think when Colorado does that and they manage it, they're probably going to be the kryptonite for Dallas. They really are, unless Ottinger can be the difference maker. He wasn't in game one. We'll see if he is in game two. But I think this is a big boy hockey. This series out west with Colorado, it's big boy shit.
Who do you think wins tonight?
I think Dallas will even it up tonight. I do. I have a hard time seeing Dallas drop another game on home ice. I think Dallas, again, that's a difficult building because of the fans. The fans are loud. It's loud. It's on top of you. There's a lot of energy in the building. There's a lot of energy around the building for a playoff game. I know I've mentioned it on the show before. I've done numerous games there for Westwood One, throughout playoffs over the last, 5 or 6 years. Maybe not the last 2 years because Westwood One lost the package, but the 4 or 5 years previous to that. So I've witnessed it firsthand. I felt it firsthand, and I think Dallas responds tonight.
All right. That's all I really got for today, Colby. Anything else on your mind that you want to bring up before we end up?
I mean, you should probably call Jerry Keefe and apologize to him because his phone's probably blowing up since you fired him from a job that you can't even fire a guy from.
That's my fault.
On our show. So as a guy who works in that league, you better call him and you better tell him he still has his job. Okay. Don't tell him not to sell his house.
I saw someone comment that in the chat. That was pretty funny. I make that mistake all the time. It's so bad. But yeah, that's all I really got for today. Another fun week.
Did he recruit you at all? Was he at Northeastern when you played at UMass?
I think
he might have been the assistant there to Jim Madigan at that point.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I played against Madigan. I wanted to transfer to that school too when I was transferring, but just didn't really work out. Yeah, would have been cool.
They gave you the better luck next year.
Yep, or better luck in 4 years. But
all right. Well, look, you enjoy the game tonight down there. We'll be looking at your social media. I know you won't actually watch the game. Your head will be buried in your laptop and your phone. You'll be flirting up in the press box with all the.
I'll be tweeting about hitting out of hockey.
With all the media, you'll be calling for 5-minute majors for Svechnikov all game. The homer and you will be out in full. Are you wearing a Rangers jersey in the press box tonight, or do you actually dress professionally?
I dress like how I normally dress, to be honest. I wear like a bomber jacket, a t-shirt, and like jeans or like
and a Rangers jersey under the jacket.
Ranger boxers and Ranger socks.
Boxers. Okay. Just in case you get lucky after, so you can show off your true fanhood.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Take the last word and end the show.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone in the chat. You guys were firing today. Remember, go watch Leafs Morning Take at 11 o'clock. I know Vic got a lot of love in the chat today, as he deserves it, because Vic is the best producer we could ask for. Also a great friend and a great guy. So shout out to Vic. Go watch Leafs Morning Take for all the Sheldon Keefe talk. Oh my God, I gotta get off the show. all the Sheldon Keefe talk. And hope you have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Monday at 9 a.m. See you later, guys.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.